Welcome once again to Pandora's box. We hope you're having a nice day. We're getting jazzy up in this house. We're getting jazzy. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna spit some facts this evening. We got many a tale for you. And I'm randomly getting jazzy in here with Bullwinkle, Charlotte, and Drew.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful melodies of David Smith,
aka
I love you. Damn the Bard. You're listening to Pandora's Box on Aspen Waite Radio. I'm your host as always, Obadiah. We have the man with the golden nugget.
Yo, back again.
Young Bullwinkle.
That's me.
Named Bullwinkle because he has the spirit of a bull and the body of a winkle.
That's right. And take it as a threat.
Take it as a threat to your very nature.
That's right.
We also have Droop at the Bear.
Otherwise known as Ripple XRP.
Oh,
Ripple XRP over here. And you cannot see her for she is like a whisper on the wind. But we also have Charlotte with us today, who's been doing work experience with us. Hi, Charlotte. Charlotte's waving. And we're going to be talking about some stuff on the show today that Charlotte is interested in, like Celtic mythology, and also like the human heart. And heart surgery. For one day, Charlotte might be the female version of Doctor Strange, but hopefully without the car crash. Yeah, so that's cool. We're going to start off today's show with some cool astrological facts.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
No, actually, not astrological.
Universal.
Astronomical.
Because
there is, of course, a difference between astrology and astronomy. Astrology is like star signs and stuff. Astronomy is like science of space. So did you know this one, at first, I think, confuses the brain to the extent you think, how is that possible? And then shortly afterwards you go, of course it's possible. Are you ready? Are you ready? Did you know that a day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus? Now you may ask yourselves, how is that possible?
I get it.
So why do you think you get it?
Because it takes longer for the actual planet to spin than it does to go around the sun.
He's got it. He's got it.
Ding, ding, ding.
See, sometimes he restores faith in himself. He restores my faith in him. Not that I ever fully lose faith in you, of course, Bullwinkle.
Thank
but
you.
it's just funny sometimes watching you struggle to open doors and shut windows. And
I try my best.
Sometimes.
So is it just like spinning around the sun super fast then?
Yeah, so obviously a year is how long it takes a planet to go around the sun, and a day is how long it takes it to spin entirely on its axis, 360 degrees. So yeah, it spins so slowly on its axis that it actually, a year is quicker than a day.
That's crazy.
Isn't that so weird? Because it seems almost like it's spinning in your head, because we're so used to thinking, oh, okay, there's like 365 and a quarter days in a year. So you obviously think like a year is way longer than a day.
Yeah.
But obviously that's naturally not a general rule.
Yeah.
That's just the rule for us.
So it'd always be your birthday if you were born on Venus.
That's crazy, because I thought a year was just a... Eh?
Oh yeah, it would be,
Sorry,
wouldn't it?
man.
He said so every day would be your birthday on Venus.
Every day's your birthday.
Woo.
Yeah, I thought a year was like it was based on time. I didn't even think that it was based on the time.
That's why at first it sounds like an oxymoron.
That's so weird, isn't it?
Which, by the way, is a sentence that contradicts itself.
Dubious.
A dubious claim. Bullwinkle's new favourite word, by the way, everyone, is not dubious.
No, dubious.
Dubious. This is quite a cool one. This is like the law of probability in action. In 1977, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune were entering a rare alignment that occurs only once every 175 years. But this just so happened at a time when humans were first attempting space exploration and coincidentally had just sent out their Voyager 2 probe on flyby, so it caught all 4 planets in perfect alignment on the way out of the solar system.
Whoa.
And they didn't realise it was going to happen.
How often? 175 years?
Yeah, it just happens like once every 175 years.
Crazy.
And it just so happened that as they were sending out the Voyager 2 probe, it happened, so they caught it on their probe.
That's amazing.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I love space, man. I love space.
Yeah.
Spaceman.
I love that. I like that, it's just that idea that that's the beauty of the law of probability, isn't it? It's the idea that sometimes things that are so like ridiculously improbable will have to happen just because every possible thing that could possibly happen in the universe happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So regardless of how improbable, I mean, it's a bit like winning the lottery, isn't it? You might think, well, it's like 1 in 10 million chance, but somebody wins.
I remember hearing a space fact when I did my scenarios episode on space. I'm going to try and find it, but it was something mental. So I'm going to try and search up while you read the next fact. Another space fact.
Oh, cool. Jupiter's moon, Amalthea, is an extremely irregular shape and was the last moon in the solar system to be discovered through direct visual observation. It was discovered in 1892 by the American astronomer Edward Emerson Barnard from what is known as the Lick Observatory, bit of a weird name, with a 36-inch refractory telescope.
I've got a refractory telescope.
Have you? That's quite cool, man. That's quite a cool one.
Yes, just a mirror one.
This is a cool one because it would just be like really spinny to be on Mercury. There are locations on the planet Mercury where at certain times during the day the sun will appear to pause, reverse direction, and then continue forward again as it moves across the sky. And this is because Mercury's orbit isn't in a constant, accurate state. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't spin in like a normal way like ours does.
It has a bit of a wobble.
Yeah, so it's like sort of going all over the place. But the effect it would give you if you were on Mercury would be that the sun was almost like going all weird across the sky.
Whoa.
That's a cool little fact, isn't it?
I couldn't find the fact I was looking for.
No?
It was a Usain Bolt fact, and it was how quick he could run across one of Saturn's rings, and it was like ridiculously fast. It was like an hour or something.
Oh,
it would take
really?
him to run the rings. But I did find out that if he was on Saturn, he could fly because of how fast he can run. So he'd be able to run fast enough to propel himself in the air and fly. Which is pretty cool.
Talking of Saturn, it was a mystery until 2019 how long a day was for Saturn. But we've just found out with a degree of certainty that a day in Saturn lasts 10 hours, 33 minutes and 38 seconds. And it's almost like a weird one in a way, because Saturn is the largest planet in our solar system. You think that like
it would
it would be slower.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that's really unique about the Earth is actually like relative to its size, it actually spins on its axis very slowly, which is obviously good for us.
Yeah,
because it gives us more hours in the day. But I think I'm right in saying that like Jupiter has like a fairly quick one as well, even though it's the largest planet in our solar system. Right. Yeah, I know. I think I've like said this. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure. Jupiter is what's known as a cosmic vacuum cleaner. Its gravitational influence causes comets and asteroids to pull in and collide with it. The rate
helped us out a few times.
Yeah, definitely. The rate of impacts of comets hitting Jupiter is 8,000 times higher than that of the rate of Earth. Without Jupiter, the probability of asteroid impacts with the inner planets would be much greater and much more catastrophic. That's a cool one, isn't it?
I like Jupiter.
Yeah.
At the risk of making myself sound really dumb, is the moon like branched off of like another rock that hit the Earth or something?
No, they think
there's theories of that.
They think that what was it? I think they think that the Earth once collided, or like something collided with the Earth that was like a massive, almost like a massive asteroid, but like, it would have been almost like the size of a planet.
Yeah.
And that a part of it collided with the Earth and almost like it got absorbed into the Earth, I think. And then the part that was left over stayed in our gravitational pull and started orbiting the Earth. And that's what is now our moon.
Oh, right. So it was only like a little bit that broke off of the moon to hit us.
Yeah, so I think it like collided with the Earth, and obviously a certain amount of it would have been destroyed.
Because I feel like if the moon, they say, don't they, that if you drop like a penny from like outer space, when the speed that it would impact when it came in, it would like cause like quite a lot of damage. If the moon hit us, I feel like that would be it.
I think it happened at a time before there were any organisms on the Earth.
Right.
So when the moon hit the Earth,
things had to settle down a little bit again.
There wasn't even microorganisms. I don't think.
That's what I struggle to find though, is like how after they hit, the Earth went back to being like circular. Do you know what I mean?
Who knows what it was like before it hit?
Yeah,
there's obviously something. This must just be the case because of the fact that all planets and stars and moons are round. There must be something about the way that everything works. Because
the pressure or something.
Galaxies all work in balance. So like every galaxy has a star. So obviously, and a sun is a star. Sun is just another word for the star. So our star in our galaxy is our sun, and then everything rotates around the sun, apart from some moons which then rotate around planets. So I think like Jupiter has like 4 moons or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I think it might be 4. Has more than 1 anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you think about it, the fact that all of these things are round, it must
in the way that
something
it's
about
formed
the gravity.
and the gravity.
There must be something to do with the fact that it like spins and do you know what it almost like reminds me of? Imagine if you were like a carpenter and you wanted to make like a round wooden ball out of like a block. You know, like, you could almost like imagine like if like you know what I mean, like almost like scraping off the sides sort of until it was like round. I can imagine it almost like somehow has that effect as its things are like almost like constantly spinning and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, in nature you see it a lot as well, isn't it? There's hardly ever any really like hard angles in nature. It's all quite like wavy and smooth and circular and stuff.
And I guess if you wanted to be really pedantic as well, it's not perfect. Nothing's like perfectly round because obviously we have like mountains everywhere.
Yeah, and craters.
So it's not like we don't have like randomly big things. Like we have like massive mountains.
But just
like
you go
Everest,
out far enough,
then it looks perfectly round. But it's not actually. It's not actually perfectly round.
Jupiter has 79 moons.
Whoa,
that's a lot more than 4.
Yeah.
That is mad. That is crazy. I know that. Do you know that Mercury is the closest planet to Earth most of the time?
Most of the time.
Only most of the time, because obviously they're
depends if Mercury's in retrograde or not.
That is true. Everybody run if it is. If it is in retrograde.
That means bad stuff's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly. Yeah. I almost said suppository then, but that's okay. Suppository. Bad things can happen, man.
You
would weigh the same on Mercury as you would weigh on Mars. Due to the much higher density of Mercury, the smaller planet has almost identical surface gravity to Mars. There you go. That's a nice little one. This is touching on what I said earlier. Even though Jupiter is a massive planet, a day on Jupiter only lasts about 5 hours because it rotates at a staggering 28,000 miles per hour. By comparison, Earth rotates at around 1,000 miles per hour.
Whoa.
So it rotates 28 times faster. I wonder if you could feel that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because
Can you feel like you're on the road?
When you think of like 1,000 miles an hour, that's fast, isn't it? But like just because of how big the surface area is of the Earth, that's what kind of must make it feel like it slows it down, because you can't obviously feel the rotation of the Earth, can you?
I think it's really cool though, like for us and also for everyone listening though, to imagine like just if we're just sitting here now, right? Everything seems super chill, nice and calm, but the fact that we're all moving at 1,000 miles an hour right now.
Yeah. I love that fact. It's just crazy,
mad, isn't it?
Do you know what I found out recently that completely blew my mind?
What's that?
You probably already knew this, but I used to think that all the planets just like rotated around the sun and everything was all in place. Yeah. And everything was all in place in its place in space. I didn't realise that we're all moving, including the sun, like constantly to a different place. We're never in the exact same place in the universe as we always are.
What's the sun's kind of like?
Yeah,
in
I
the
always
grand
kind of thought that like the sun was always in one place and we just all spiraled around.
Does that have a rotation around something, or like some kind of? Do you know what I mean? Like if you went,
greater rotation.
Yeah, is there a greater rotation that we're not even aware of?
Well, I know that like I think it's like 70% of the universe is like dark matter, which is mental, isn't it? Which is quite scary as well, because nobody still really knows what dark. Nobody still really knows what dark matter is.
Yeah, so
scientists have lots of.
Is dark matter and antimatter the same?
I don't think they're the same thing. No.
Okay.
But the crazy thing about dark matter is as well, nobody knows exactly what happens if you go into it. Most people think that you would like not even really die, that you would almost like cease to exist on like an anatomical level. So like the atoms in like to almost like to die, you have to like your tissue has to be killed. Do you know what I mean? Like your tissue, but like it wouldn't be like that. It would almost be like, rather than thinking of it as like you would die if you went into dark matter, it would be more like you never were, which is crazy, isn't it? It's almost as if like you would you'd be, as far as the universe existed, it would almost be like deleting a file on your computer. Do you know what I mean? Like once it's deleted permanently from the recycle bin, it's like, do you know what I mean? It's that's like
erased.
Whereas obviously normally, you would die. You'd either be put in the ground, you cremated or whatever, and then regardless of that, your ashes is going to blow away. But like to actually like just be completely deleted on an anatomical level. So some people think that would happen. Some people think like crazy theories though, that like you could either go into like a different dimension, or even like time travel, or like radical space travel.
They say, don't they, the main thing that we know is just that it's like a hole that sucks stuff in and no light, even light can't escape from.
Yeah, so like
Even
light
can't
cannot
escape
exist.
them.
Yeah, that's why they're like black holes. Is that they're literally just like as black gets, because no light whatsoever can come out from
like
it.
if you like shone a
happens to
torch
light?
on it, like the light would just not be
Yeah.
able to even be able to form.
So I always find it quite crazy as well that because of how light works, if the universe was sucked into a black hole, we would still be around when we're not, if that makes sense. Because it would take a while for it to catch up. So we would, in reality, we'd be in a black hole, but in our world, we'd still be here for like a couple seconds or whatever.
You could
Pretty
see
cool.
yourself disappear.
Yeah, isn't there? Oh, I can't remember if this was like this some sort of. I can't remember if this was a book or a movie, but I swear there's some sort of like. I think it might have been a movie. I just can't remember who was in it. And the story is that like it was supposed to be like space travel, but not too much into the future, so that the astronauts weren't aware of what was going to happen. But it was like, imagine like 10 years in the future where we had some sort of like breakthrough with rockets, and the idea that like you get to the edge of our solar system and you find a planet that is habitable. So and then the astronauts went down. So the astronaut goes to the planet, and then he thinks he spends a day there.
Yeah.
And then he gets back in the rocket and he goes back to Earth, and his wife is like 40 years older than him, and his like children are like completely grown up. And it's because of the way that time works, like, you know, because like time is completely relative.
Yeah.
And it was like because of the environment he was in, only like a day passed, but back on Earth, like 40 years had passed. And that's almost like spinning.
That's a strange concept. Even when you were saying about what was the planet that would only be 5 hours for a day?
Jupiter,
yeah. So like, what would that feel like? Would that feel different? Would it feel like 5 hours still, or would it
seem like
do you know what I
24
mean?
hours?
Yeah, you know?
Is time really time?
Yeah.
Well, they say that
like,
time.
how does it feel?
They even say, don't they, that like time is
Relative.
like something that we've made
Yeah.
up almost like to help us like organize and comprehend things.
Yeah, our space and time on this planet.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it will feel different in different places. I would have thought.
Yeah.
They say, like, don't they, that like some ancient cultures didn't think of time as moving forward, but as time as moving backwards. I know that like the Mayans like thought of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would. So it was weird. Like I think it's a really weird concept. Like I don't
the
even.
eternal now.
I find it even hard, like even knowing that, to even really get my head around that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like how would like you be going backwards?
There is
But-
no time, just the present moment.
Yes. Yes. I guess it just like it does. You know, I think like most things in life, though, it's like speech, isn't it? It's like things don't necessarily have to make sense. They're just things that we've created to make us be able to understand and plan things.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like if you didn't have, you know, if you didn't say, okay, well, if one day is going to be, you know, the time it takes, you know, for like the Earth to rotate on its axis. So you know that okay, the sun comes up in the morning, and then at night time the moon comes up. Like if you didn't arrange things like that, then it would just be chaos. Because if I was like, well, when do you want to do this then? And then you were just like, well, you wouldn't be able to say anything, would you? Like, you need to have like an organisational like system. You need to be able to like say like when you want to do
Make
stuff.
it relatable.
Because otherwise, literally everything would just be pandemonium, wouldn't it?
Do you know one more thing that I've got one more little sort of fact on the terms of the universes and stuff. I always find it really weird, and you might have a reason why we always got taught this in school.
Right.
But you know how we've always been taught like there's three forms of stuff. You've got gases, liquids and solids.
Yeah.
But did you know there's like a fourth, and it's 99.9% of the universe is that fourth?
What's that?
Plasma. And plasma's like its own thing separate to that.
Is it?
I believe so, yeah. So you've got like solids, liquids, gases.
Can you look up
and
the
then you've got
definition of plasma?
I will.
You look at that up while I say our next fact.
I've got up there, it says it's 99.9% of the universe is made out of plasma, but I'll figure out what that is.
All right. This is quite an interesting one. You know that Mercury has absolutely no atmosphere, but it's also the planet closest to the sun, which means that during the daytime, it's the hottest planet in our solar system at 800 degrees. That's like, imagine that. Cool, that was like everybody there anything would just be incinerated.
I'm surprised it's not even more than that where it's so close to the sun though.
I think it probably would be if it had an atmosphere, but it's like there's nowhere for it to go, which means that the side of Mercury which is facing away from the sun, even though it's that close to the sun, and even though the other side of the planet is 800 degrees, the side that is basically in nighttime is minus 280 degrees. Whoa. And that puts into perspective how important it is to have an atmosphere. You know, obviously people go on about like the ozone layer and you
just think like whatever that's made up of must be such a hardy substance to just even like survive that.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure exactly what is on, because I know that, you know, you've got like some planets that are like complete gas, gas
Yeah.
giants and stuff, and then
Is Mercury just Mercury?
it's Freddie Mercury.
It's made up of Freddie.
It's made up of Freddie Mercury.
Pure Freddie.
Yeah. This is a cool one. If you were to jump off the tallest cliff in the solar system, which is Verona Rupes, on Uranus's moon Miranda, you would fall for 12 minutes before you hit the ground. It's 20 kilometers high.
Whoa!
So that's the tallest cliff in our entire solar system.
Wow, that puts
Everest to shame.
Yeah,
Wait, how
or the
tall
Valley
is
of
it?
the Rocks.
Oh yeah, 20 kilometers tall.
Right.
I was thinking the other day that I'd really, really like to feel what it's like to free fall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Well,
like
just
You
go
could do that.
parachuting.
Yeah, just go. Yeah.
yeah,
You
just
can
that.
do indoor ones like pretty close to here as well.
Just that feeling of just like completely like
that would be nice.
That would just be like so crazy. I
Quite
reckon.
freeing.
Yeah,
I think one of the
So-
things that people like since the dawn of time have like wanted to do is like fly.
yeah.
You hear a lot of tales about that, like whether it's like Icarus.
When people, your dreams, like, what do you want to dream of? Like, mine is always that, like, I want to dream of flying. I remember my granddad would always say that he dreams of flying quite a lot, and I'm like, I've had a couple of dreams of flying, but like not very many. But I
Yeah.
think just that'd be so cool, just like, woo.
Yeah, man.
Or you see like crazy videos of what are they? Not paragliders.
Like wingsuits, like
Yes.
and they look like
Yes,
squirrels.
I can do that.
And some of them are like sketchy, man.
Yeah.
They're like going so like
Close to the edge of the cliffs and stuff, and like, yeah.
like, and they're going at like serious miles
Speed.
per hour.
Threading the needle between like two separate cliffs that are right there.
Yeah.
I could not do that. That
Or like
looks terrifying.
Or like navigating your way through like massive like trees and stuff like that. I think if you just hit one of those trees, you'd probably break like the majority of the bones in your body. They must be going. I don't know how like.
Oh, you die.
I don't know the
You
average
die
speed
straight up.
that they're going, but it looks so fast.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
some of them, like I swear, look like they're going like over 50 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, I reckon.
You think almost like the
definitely.
G-force alone of going like that, but without some sort of shield in front of you, would be almost too much. Do you know what I mean?
Little
Like-
goggles.
Yeah. You think they just fly off,
Yeah.
though, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they must be
Strapped
like,
on.
It's like
Yeah.
into your head.
yeah.
I found out what plasma is.
What's
so,
that then?
like I said, plasma is one of the four fundamental states of matter, along
Right.
with like solids, gases, and liquids.
Right.
Some examples of what like plasma is like auroras, lightning, stuff like that, welding arcs,
Lightning is plasma.
apparently.
Whoa.
But
What is
when you
electricity?
think about it, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess electricity must be like a form of plasma, which kind
Yeah.
of makes sense because you wouldn't say it is a solid, really, a liquid or a gas, would you?
It's a
But
plasma. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and it's made up of 99.9% of the universe is made up out of it.
That's well cool, man. This is a nice little fact. I like how it like ties into mythology because obviously you know that a lot of like our planets are all named after like Roman and Greek mythology, but they're given the Roman names, the Latin names. Like obviously like Jupiter was like Zeus and stuff like that. Well, all of Jupiter's moons are named after his extramarital lovers and children in mythology. And NASA's probe that was sent to Jupiter was named Juno. Juno was Jupiter's wife in mythology, and they sent it out saying, in tongue in cheek, saying that it was like his wife flying to check up on her husband's mischief. So that's like quite a cool little one, isn't it? Yeah. Apparently, Uranus smells like farts constantly because its atmosphere consists largely of hydrogen sulfide, which is the same gas which we fart. Which is the same gas that we fart.
Yet another connection with
Yeah.
Uranus and Uranus.
Maybe that's why they called it that.
Yeah. Oh man, this is one for all the astrology people. Do you know that Triton, the largest moon of Neptune, is the only moon in our solar system with a retrograde orbit?
Uh-oh.
Just constantly in retrograde. An orbit in the opposite direction of its planet, and is thus thought to be a dwarf planet that Neptune caught from the Kuiper belt. That's quite a cool little one, isn't it?
That is cool.
Rhea is a moon of Saturn and is showing signs of a breathable atmosphere for us Earthlings, or Terrans, as we're also known. Did you know that? Do you know that as an Earth species, we're actually defined as Terrans? Did you know that? That's a weird little
So
fact, isn't it?
would like
Terra firma.
every animal would be Terrans?
I'm not sure if the animals. I mean, I'd like to think that they would be.
Yeah.
But I know that, like you, so obviously we're English,
Earth dwellers.
We're English on a widest level. We're British.
On a wider level, we're Terran.
Yeah, but everybody is a Terran. So regardless of what country you're from, if you're an Earthling, you're a Terran. Yeah. So we think that we could live on Rhea, a moon of Saturn, and apparently NASA and other companies are thinking of it as like a good candidate for potential missions. They think that it has oxygen and water there.
Oh, nice.
So like that'd be
like some Saturn water.
I wonder if there's like mental creatures there. Imagine we just went there and there's like mental creatures.
Beasts.
Or like any kind of wildlife at all.
Yeah.
Like, like kind of trees and things like that. Because it's actually very rare apparently, isn't it? In that we know of. Like, it is like Earth is like a little gem in the universe. Yeah,
definitely. I like the idea that you would go there though, and it would be like some like you could make an awesome like sci-fi movie out of that.
Yeah,
like you go there and it's just like some crazy creatures there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would like to think that there probably is some sort of creatures there, because I think like one of the main things that you need for life, they always say, isn't it, is like water.
As we know it, yeah.
Because like that's where life originated from on the planet. It's like just water. And I think if there's like water and oxygen as well.
That's what they think with Mars, don't they? They think that they can see like past examples of where rivers would have flown.
Yeah,
on Mars.
And there is like frozen water there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So they're like, and they think, haven't they like? Isn't it like have they like found out for a fact now that there are like little microorganisms like living in the ice? So there already like technically is other life.
Well, like
there's some cool pictures in that
Mm.
as well, isn't there, on Mars? What you can see of like things like, it's like, what is that? It looks a bit like a pyramid and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a cool video recently that was like ranking all of the most beautiful planets in the world and like the photos of them, and I was like, oh, I wonder what number one's going to be. And of course it was Earth. I was looking at it, I was like, that's actually really cool. That when you look at all these different planets, Earth actually is the most beautiful planet out of all the planets.
Oh yeah, it's not surprising, really.
That's what I mean, because it is. It's like this little gem, all this life that is like flowing from it.
One of the things that's like mad,
rare.
One of the things that's like mad about the Earth as well is that like a lot of planets is like the same all the way round, Whereas obviously on the Earth, you could go to like Colorado in America, and it's just like all like red rocks.
Yeah,
and you could go
so different.
You could go to like the Caribbean, and there'd be like palm trees.
You can be in
sea,
certain countries and just travel across the country, and like that's what I thought in Peru. Like I've said before about like 1 minute I'm in the desert, next minute you're in the jungle, next minute you're in the canyon and like in mountains.
It's crazy.
It's like, how have you got so many different
landscapes?
Like landscapes.
Yeah, one place.
Sure.
This is a bit of a mental one. Like astrophysicists have figured out that in 50 million years, due to tidal forces, Mars's largest moon, Phobos, will collide with Mars, which will likely like break up both the moon and Mars as a planet.
Whoa. When's that going to happen?
50 million years.
Oh, we're fine.
Oh, we're going to be long gone.
Fine.
Yeah, we're going to be long gone. Yeah. Raindrops on Saturn's largest moon, Titan, the only other known world with seasonal rainfall other than Earth, would be twice as big as raindrops on Earth and would fall as slow as snowflakes. So that's pretty cool.
Just like touching
because of the way so it'd be like
Oh.
massive water drops, but just falling like really like slowly.
Because the gravity's different. And
That would be
stuff.
quite like a visual
Surreal
sight.
thing to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If you didn't know so much about science, you could say that was a dubious claim, couldn't you, Bullwinkle?
A dubious claim. Yes.
They think that Venus could have had habitable conditions for life billions of years in the past, long enough for life to have completely developed and then been destroyed without us ever knowing it.
Oh.
But it's just because nowadays it is so inhabitable, you just wouldn't ever know it. And
It's cool to think that different planets could have been in contact billions of years ago and now they're both just gone.
Yeah. This is a really funny one. The planet Uranus was discovered by a British astrophysicist, and as a result, it was originally just named George after the British king at the time, King George III.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
it's like Mars, Jupiter, and that, and then there's George. Yeah. So we're gonna leave that there for our astronomical facts of today.
Yeah.
We're gonna listen to a track now, another Damn the Bard facts, getting back into our Celtic bardism, and then when we come back, we're gonna find out some facts about the heart, baby. Hope everyone's having a nice evening out there. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Pandora's Box. Pandora's Box.
Oh.
We were just learning all about space, but now it's time to learn about the heart.
Oh.
All right, baby. Boom, 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 boom. Do you know that the human heart is roughly the size of a large fist? The average human heart weighs between 250 and 350 grams, which is about the weight of a large steak.
Oh, yes.
The heart beats 100,000 times a day.
Whoa.
That's about 3 billion beats a lifetime.
Billion beats a lifetime, baby.
How cool is that?
Damn.
The average,
That's a lot of beating.
yeah, isn't it? The average heart beats between 60 and 80 times a minute.
It's so weird that you can't really feel it unless you really concentrate, or if you like put your hand, or if you get really
If you're
pumped up.
freaking out.
There's some facts we're going to talk about as well, which puts that more into perspective, and it says like similar to that what we were talking about with how it's weird that we're moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but you seem like you're really calm. Something like mental facts about the heart.
How many times does your heart beat per minute when you're doing like exercise? Let's say for the average person, if you're running,
Go up
It
to
would
100
it would
BPM,
completely
can it?
vary. But
mine's
everyone,
about 180.
What,
I was
going
gonna
to
say,
exercising?
everyone's got a different resting heart rate and then active heart rate. It said it depends obviously on how hard you're working out at the time, how vigorous it is, your fitness level, how old you are, your weight, everything. Like, so it really can. In general, obviously, the fitter you are, the lighter you are, the lower your heart rate's probably going to be. So if there was like a man and a woman that had the same fitness level, the woman's going to have a lower heart rate than the man. Or a more efficient one, you could say, because obviously the more beats it takes your heart to get oxygenated blood around the system, then the less efficient that is, really. You know, in general, the bigger you are, the slower your heart rate will be. But yeah, the more it will probably beat when you then start exercising really hard. So adults' heart beats between 60 and 80 times a minute, but newborn babies beat faster, between 70 to 190 beats a minute. The heart pumps about 5 litres of blood throughout your body at any one time. That's a lot of litres of blood, isn't it? That's a lot of blood. Every day, the heart creates enough energy to drive a truck 20 miles.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? In a lifetime, that's enough to drive a truck to the moon and back. So if you could harness, so if you could like harness the energy of a heart, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? I guess if you think about it, like, without our heart, we die. Like everything we do is powered by our heart, you know. I mean, obviously by the wider body in general, but I mean the heart is like the core of everything. Our muscles don't work without our heart, you know. If there's nothing to like pump oxygenated blood into those muscles, then you dead.
Order the brain.
Huh?
Order the brain.
Yeah, without you pumping blood into the brain, just like a little carrot. Not even a carrot.
Carrot top.
Yeah. If you grabbed a tennis ball and squeezed it as hard as you can, that is how hard every single beat of your heart pumps blood around your body.
No.
Yeah. That's how hard you're.
Crazy.
If you think about it in a way, it makes sense, because think about how big your body is compared to the size of your heart, and then think about the fact that has to then every beat has to transport all of that oxygenated fresh blood around the body. Like, it can't be weak. Do you know what I mean?
blowing my mind with the thing that I said earlier as well, that you can't really feel it. That's even more crazy.
Yeah, the fact that it's working that hard.
Yeah.
It almost makes you think like it's surprising that people don't have more like things like heart attacks more often. Because it thinks like, how efficient does your heart have to be just to be like, without even thinking about it, just be going do-dong, 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 with like enough force that it would be the equivalent to you squeezing a tennis ball as hard as you could. But I feel like I could squeeze a tennis ball pretty hard. But the fact that my heart's just doing that like every second is like pretty cool. Pretty cool. During an average lifetime, the heart will pump nearly 1.5 million barrels of blood. That's pretty cool, isn't it? The stethoscope, so you know what stethoscope is, you know, put it in your ear and listen to people's hearts. That was invented by a French physician called René Laennec, sometime around the turn of the 1800s. Purely because back in those days, physicians used to listen to their patients' heartbeats by placing their ear against their chest. But he just thought it was inappropriate to do that to women. So he invented the stethoscope purely for that. So, gentlemanly fellow. A gentlemanly
Very
fellow.
nice man.
Yeah. In 1903, physiologist Willem Einthoven invented the electrocardiograph, which measures the electric current in the heart, and that's still used to this day.
Whoa.
It's mad to think about how like electrical our hearts are. I guess that goes a bit in hand with what they were saying about how it could like power a truck for 20 miles a day. But it's like, yeah, I mean,
it's their plasma, baby.
I think that's like one of the reasons. It's all like joined to like why sometimes, you know, you might feel and like see static when you like put on a t-shirt or take it off. Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
Like if a t-shirt's like a certain amount of material and it's in the dark, you literally see like little sparks of electric.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I've never had that in my life.
You've never had that. I don't know if like I'm extra electrical.
When
but
you
it
put on a
happens-
shirt, you see sparks.
Yes. Have you ever had that?
You had
Charlotte?
this?
I felt very
Like-
electric charge, but
If-
I've not
you know-
seen sparks.
That's crazy.
If you think of like sports top, so like think of like a football top or like or like an Under Armour top, like something like
Yeah.
this would be a good one. That sort of material, I don't know what it is about it, but like
Builds up the charge.
yeah,
Damn,
like if you
man.
put on like just like a normal cotton t-shirt, it won't work. But there has been times when I've been putting on t-shirts and I'll see like little crackles.
Damn.
Not like also massive, but yeah, just like almost like
Yeah,
you know. Can you
yeah,
imagine?
yeah.
Imagine almost like you know when you like the light, like you like go like that with a lighter, and it's just the sparks. Not obviously on that scale, but imagine just like one of the little sparks, and like yeah,
Man, you might have like a superpower or something.
electro man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You gotta work into that.
It
Yeah,
is
man.
crazy when you get super charged up as well, and like you look all your hairs on your arms. If your hairs go close to the charge, they just like straighten out, like go completely straight out up on your arm.
Is that why balloons can like stick to the ceiling if you rub them on you?
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
static electricity and everything like that. Yeah. Like with most things, we talked about how like animals in the past. We talked about how like animals often have like Latin names, and if not, they have like a Greek name. It's mad how many things that we just call in our modern day have like some sort of Latin connection, or actually are just descriptive words, but descriptive words in Latin. So atrium is Latin for entrance hall. So we all have. So if you like a doctor would say like, oh, his atrium might be damaged, and that's why he's having heart problems. So that's the entrance hall of your heart. Atrium just means entrance hall. And ventricle is Latin for little belly.
The little belly.
So yeah, again, you know,
The little belly
a
of
doctor
the
might be
heart.
like, oh, your left ventricle isn't working properly. And that's why you're having these heart palpitations, whatever. Yeah, it means little belly. The little belly of your heart. So that comes from, like, yeah, Latin. That's quite cool, isn't it? Obviously, we think of like catheters, and we think about how they're usually used, aren't they? They're usually inserted into somebody's
Bladder.
phallus. Yeah, bladder. That's a better word. Usually, if they've got some sort of like issue with that or something. But did you know there was a German surgeon called Werner Forssmann who was the first person to put a catheter into his heart? He was proposing it for a while, because he thought, you know, if you put a catheter into your heart, surely there's like certain things that you could do to manipulate the heart that would potentially make like a patient better. But basically, people were just too scared to do it because the heart is like, people have known since the dawn of time that how important the heart is. They were like, you know, like, I don't know if I want to be messing around with that, because if you don't, you could just kill somebody or kill yourself. So he spent years trying to convince, you know, his community, the medical community, to, you know, we should really start trying to put like catheters into people's hearts. And he kept getting turned down. So in the end, he decided, while he was fully conscious, to put a catheter into himself. He opened himself up and threaded a catheter into his arm vein, and then pushed it 20 inches slowly into his heart, and then invented cardiac catheterization, which nowadays is a common procedure. It's a really good way of putting like medicine straight into people's bloodstream.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise it's obviously, especially if you're like a really ill person anyway and got like a damaged heart, just if you injected somebody normally, if you took something orally, by the time it's digested and that, it's very hard for like your heart to then have to get that around the system. Think if you're like really ill. If you put it into a catheter into the heart, you're basically just doing your body like a massive favour. I guess it's like the difference between like dropping somebody off outside their house and like making them walk 20 miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you just drop them off outside the house, they're there. You know? That's my little
analogy. Then.
analogy.
I
for
didn't
the day.
like that for some reason, even though that sounded like a real like important
part in like
medical
history.
Yeah, exactly. But for some reason that gave me the
Well, I think he was conscious. He had to be conscious of it, obviously.
yeah.
I think he had to put it in his arm vein and then thread it through. And then think about the amount of skill and precision you'd have
Man.
to get that into your heart.
That's going in my heart.
Oh,
there we go.
That's right in. That's in my left ventricle. That's in my little belly. It's in my little belly. Yeah, that's a cool one, isn't it? That's a cool one. Let's get some more heart facts for you. Did you know that the most common time to have a heart attack for some reason is a Monday between 8 and 9 a.m.? Apparently, like, using like studies from all over the world, people by far seem to have heart attacks most between 8 and 9 a.m. on a Monday.
That sounds about right.
Imagine that, you have like a really good weekend, you get to
Work
work,
again.
Something really stressful happens, just like, screw this.
Yeah. Wow.
Heart attack.
Can't deal with another week.
Yeah, can't have an early morning.
Oh, man, this is crazy. This is crazy. The muscle in your hearts are so strong that if it was harnessed in terms of the way that we think of like muscles lifting weights, they would be able to lift almost 3,000 pounds. Your heart would be able to lift almost 3,000 pounds. That's how strong it is.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, isn't it? A single heartbeat could shoot blood over 30 feet. That's how powerfully it's like pumping blood around your body.
Yeah, it's mad, man.
Yeah. Apparently, guys with long ring fingers, I don't know if mine's long or not, are less likely to have heart attacks. The British Journal of Cardiology found that men with ring fingers the same length or only slightly longer than their index finger have a higher risk of heart attacks in their 30s and 40s than men with ring fingers much longer than their index fingers. And apparently the reason for this is testosterone.
No.
Apparently testosterone is one of the things that lengthens a man's ring finger. Apparently women have shorter ring fingers than men. And testosterone is important for protecting your heart against disease.
Are you guys fine?
Go like that?
Yeah, so bigger than your index finger.
So your ring finger should be...
Not smaller, mine's the same.
This is your ring finger.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be bigger than your index.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing good too.
Yeah.
Bullwinkle's going to have a heart attack. Sorry, dude. Rest in peace, man. Rest in pease, Bullwinkle. It's all right, mate. You're only 18. You're only 18. We're probably going to die for you. Anyway, we're way older than you. Yeah, let's see. The average woman's heart beats 78 times per minute, whereas the average man's heart beats 70 times per minute. So that sort of goes into what I was saying, is that like, in general, not always, but in general, men are larger than women. And in general, the larger something is, the larger the creature, the slower their heartbeat will be. That's why I think like elephants and like whales and things like that, they have like really slow heartbeats, but insanely powerful heartbeats. So like, if you like put like a listening device under the water near a whale, you'd hit There's our audio and visual representation of a whale's heart.
The audio listeners will love that one.
Nicely done by Drew Bag there. Nicely done. Yeah, and it literally says here, the bigger the heart, the slower the heart rate. A blue whale's heart is the size of a car, but only beats 6 times a minute. So only once every 10 seconds. That's crazy, isn't it?
What kind of car?
It just says of
not an
a small,
not an Igo.
A small car.
Oh, maybe an Igo.
Maybe an Igo.
I reckon bigger than an Igo.
Yeah.
I reckon like a Corsa.
Yeah, I reckon a Corsa.
I'm thinking like an average hatchback, because yours isn't like an average hatchback.
No, mine's the Blueberry Faygo. Mine's the one and only.
Yours is like the step up from like those, like toddlers have those little like orange and yellow cars that they go around with.
Stick an engine in one of those.
Yours is like the one up from that.
We've spoken about it before, haven't we? It reminds us of that thing from Simpsons, where there's this like really tall guy who's just got this comedically like tiny car. That's what my car's like.
Yeah, you are pretty much like that. It is. I loved it that time you gave me a ride.
Yeah, man. 4-door.
Go-kart.
Yeah. It's quite fun, Mammals are warm-blooded, hairy vertebrates that nurse their young. Know what else scientists say they all have in common? A lifetime of about 1.5 billion heartbeats. So not all creatures have the same longevity. For instance, an elephant lives longer than a cat, but that is because larger animals' hearts beat slower. I guess that's one of the reasons why fitter people as well will live longer than people that are unfit, because in general, if your heart doesn't have to beat so much to get oxygenated blood around the body, then it's gonna, I guess it's a bit like abusing a car engine. Do you know what I mean? If you're like constantly having to put your foot down for a car to get up like a hill, then it's probably gonna knacker out the engine pretty quickly. And don't be surprised if the car needs to be just written off past 100,000 miles. If you've got like a good car and you look after it, 300k easy, baby. Easy
Do
money.
a good service with some vegetables and some nice clean protein.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's it. Eat your blueberries. This is like this is quite a cool one. That's quite cool. It makes me almost sad to think of like the original subjects though. Most heart transplants are performed in the United States, but the first one occurred in South Africa on December the 3rd, 1967. The first heart transplant in the US occurred 3 days later in Brooklyn, New York. but it wasn't your typical heart transplant. It was performed on an infant child who died nearly 7 hours later. Obviously, it's hard to perfect something. It's such a massive transplant. It took a long time to perfect, and obviously it's still like a really dodgy operation to this day. The next paediatric transplant didn't happen until 1984 in London. It was ultimately unsuccessful. The same year, the US tried another paediatric transplant on an infant called Baby Faye. Because there weren't any appropriate donor hearts, the surgeon tried the next best thing, a baboon heart. Baby Faye lived for 3 weeks before sadly dying.
Good 3 weeks.
But it gets better. In 1985, baby Moses was the first infant to undergo a successful heart transplant. And since, many more babies have survived. The bigger problem now for all patients needing transplants isn't how hard the procedure is, it's just getting hearts.
Is there quite a lot of heart transplants now then?
I think there's, fairly, define
It sounds
regular.
It sounds a lot in like infants from what you were saying then, but then that I can imagine that would be like super hard because I suppose it's not many infants that would need. I thought it would be like people, like adults that would need heart transplants.
Yes, like what are they called? Premature.
Yeah,
like premature children.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to put like an adult heart in a baby.
No, that's what I mean. So I can see why they'd be so scarce.
Yeah. Oh, what's that noise?
The music is back.
The sounds of the Scottish Highlands.
Lovely.
Can you feel yourself there, Heather? With your wind blowing.
Deep fried Mars bars and
the fried Mars bars in the Highlands of Scotland.
Haggis roasting on an open fire.
I like a bit of haggis.
Hey,
it's underrated.
Meat and tatties.
Get your meat and tatties.
Lovely.
Well, now you're going to learn about the Gorbils vampire of Glasgow. Back in 1950s, the Gorbils area of Glasgow was being terrorised by an unseen force.
Oh dear.
Stories had been circulating in the Gorbils about missing children, believed to have been killed. Believe it or not, the culprit was said to have been a 7-foot vampire with teeth made of iron, lurking in the necropolis under the city. That's pretty sketchy, isn't it? The adults wouldn't believe the kids, so the kids decided to deal with this monster once and for all themselves. In 1954, hundreds of young kids from the Gorbils area of Glasgow swarmed into the creepy necropolis graveyard. The police were called, but couldn't move the children, so it took a local head teacher to finally disperse the crowd. He was known for his extra stern nature. I like the idea that the police couldn't move them, so they were like, right, we need this really strict teacher to go in there, and he was like, children, get out of the necropolis! And they were like, sorry sir, and then just ran away. Local historians believe that the mass panic stemmed from the legend of Jenny Wee. Jenny Wee the Iron Teeth, a murderous ghost said to haunt Glasgow Green. There was also an American comic book at that time entitled The Vampire with the Iron Teeth. After the story appeared in the local press, it gained worldwide coverage. An unlikely alliance of Christians, communists, and the National Union of Teachers blamed imported American horror comic books for the mass hysteria. The campaign ultimately reached Parliament, resulting in the 1955 Children and Young Persons Act, which still stands today.
Gosh darn Americans.
Afterwards, a stage play and a graphic novel have told the story of the Gorbils vampire, and a large mural of the beast guards a local railway arch today.
So what does it sort of look like then? Just
a 7-foot tall vampire with iron teeth. The thing that makes me interested in, though, I mean, so if children were going missing originally, but then later it was all just put down to hysteria, what actually happened to the children that went missing?
Yeah, that's actually a
Do you know
good
what I mean?
point. Yeah.
So I'm like, that almost gives it a little creepy edge at the end, because then it's like, oh, it's been explained, it was just hysteria, but then you're like, but what happened to the kids? And suddenly
unless it was a crazy killer guy or something.
Yeah.
7-foot
tall, weird, pale guy.
Oh, I don't like the fact he's pale. That makes it weirder for some reason, doesn't it?
Well, if he lived in a necropolis and he only came out at night, you'd be pretty damn pale, wouldn't you?
So all the kids went in, but then they just got dispersed by the head teacher before they could actually catch this vampire creature. Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
It would have been a bit like an It story if they came back after beating it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been very much like It. Yeah, very much
so.
so.
Age story.
So a little, nice little tale there for you all. Anyway, so what do you believe? Do you believe that there was a 7 foot tall vampire?
No.
Probably not that likely, is it really?
Yeah, I reckon it's probably a serial killer. But then, like,
a weirdo snatching children.
Yeah, if there was this magazine that the kids were seeing, they would probably put in
two and two. Especially if he was like a really tall guy and it's
imagination going as well.
Yeah, you know what kids are like. He's a vampire, mate. You know.
We gotta beat him.
That's
Come to the cave.
Yeah. They've got a nice little Scottish folk tale for you, Nay. This is the story of Robert the Bruce and the Spider. Robert the Bruce is well known in Scotland and across the world due to the part he played in the Scottish Wars of Independence and films such as The Outlaw King and Braveheart. Know about Robert the Bruce? Yeah. So, like, even though William Wallace obviously was like made really famous in like the movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, and that Robert the Bruce in reality was like more
the
of
leader.
More of a Don really than.
Right.
But
right, just didn't get the credit in the end.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's one of those funny things, isn't it, about like modern day. It's like if basically you make a movie out of something, people are going to pay more attention to the movie than the actual history.
William
Wallace?
Yeah.
William Warheart. You've like evolved.
That's a cool
I
name.
was William Wallace and he managed to kill me, but now I'm William Warheart.
I wish it was William Warheart.
That could be one of your new aliases.
William Warheart. Warheart. That's amazing.
That's your Scottish.
So was he an actual person, William Wallace?
Yeah. He was, yeah. He was a real person.
The actual
Robert
Don.
the Bruce is a pretty famous Scottish character as well.
Yeah, Robert the Bruce.
So he's still up there.
Do you reckon they picked William Wallace because he's got like a cool name for the
William Wallace?
William Wallace.
I don't know.
The alliteration of it and everything.
I don't know, but everybody always like jokes that sort of like jokes around and says that like Mel Gibson must like hate British people because there's so many Mel Gibson movies that he's written and directed that like portray the English as like awful. But then because obviously a lot of people pay more attention to movies than actual history nowadays, a lot of people almost like, take it as fact. So there's so he did Braveheart, and in that like that just made the English like awful. Like in the movie, like the British are like going around the Scottish villages and like killing everyone in that, whereas they're saying like in reality that didn't really happen.
It's a bit like that in Outlander as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And also he also made this movie. I think it's called Patriot Games. Is it called that? Or is it just called The Patriot? No, you're right. It's called The Patriot. And in that, it's like around the time of the American Revolutionary Wars, and it almost like makes out the same thing. That like the British were going around just like burning everybody to death and that. Whereas in reality, again, it wasn't really like that.
Listen to the Eskimo story on one of the one of the previous podcasts.
Especially with like the American side of things, you've got to bear in mind there was a lot of people that we would now consider Americans that were actually what were called loyalists. So a lot of American people didn't want to leave Britain, but they just sort of had to because of the fact that that's ended up happening. But a lot of American people were like angry at their fellow Americans for like making that happen. And it took like decades and decades for people actually to be okay about it. Imagine actually being that, like, in terms of, say you were like George Washington and you were the first person that wrote the Declaration of Independence. As far as like you were concerned, as like a guy that just say worked as like a blacksmith in like Boston, from your point of view, some guys just wrote on a piece of paper that we've declared independence and now he's just running around with it. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, like Thomas Jefferson and all that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You'd be like, what gives him really the right to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And now look at July 4th.
Yeah.
Now look at it.
Yeah.
Independence Day to the max. Yeah.
But no, we're not talking about USA, we're talking about Scotland.
Yeah, true.
Let's have a moment to relax back in the ambience of this music. Scotland.
Very nice.
The Silkies calling to you, Bullwinkle. Or should I call you William Warheart?
William Winkle.
William Winkle. William Winkle, I sentence you to death. So anyway, all the way back to Robert the Bruce. He was born in 1274 at Lochmaben Castle, where he was a knight and overlord of Annandale. In 1306, he was crowned King of Scotland, and subsequently tried to free Scotland from the grasp of the English. After being defeated in battle in 1306 by the Earl of Pembroke, Robert the Bruce went into hiding, supposedly in the Western Isles. He resided in a cave for 3 months, at the lowest point of his life, and struggled to come up with a plan about what to do next, contemplating leaving his country, never again to return. I know. However, while Robert the Bruce was waiting in his cave, legend has it that he watched a spider build a web in the entrance to his cave. The typically stormy Scottish weather never one to disappoint, made the spider's task difficult, as droplet after droplet destroyed the creature's intricate work. But finally, against all odds, the spider succeeded and built his web. Robert the Bruce was so inspired by the spider's efforts, he decided to get up off his arse and face another fight. He is said he is said to have told his men, "If at first you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again." You can pick yourself up and try again. No, he didn't say that. He did. He said, "If at first you don't succeed, try, and try again. And if you fail, try again."
That's cool. I didn't know that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's what the song's written about. It's Robert the Bruce. If at first you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again.
Off your arse and try again.
Try again. Just have a wee dram and drink some whiskey and have a little tatty and drink some haggis. Eat some haggis. But yeah, that's
and
a nice.
Try again.
And pick yourself up and try again. You can pick yourself up and try again. Try again. So yeah, it's a nice little story about Robert the Bruce there. You can imagine that. You're almost like, you're feeling sorry for yourself. You're like, oh, I failed. And then meanwhile, there's this little spider. They don't ever get any glory.
No, spiders are cool, man.
They just
I was saying this to you the other day,
No?
wasn't I? I was at my nan's the other day having a meal, and I just sort of zoned out. It must have been for like 10 minutes. Zoned out and just watched this spider, and it was sort of like just making this like web just going up and down,
As
and
it
I was
does,
just
as it
watching it
does.
going, man, I've never actually looked at a spider and thought that's cool, but I was watching it going, actually, that's actually really awesome for some reason. I was captivated
Mate,
by the little spider.
they are amazing beasts, aren't they? And I think the fact that they're so small, yet they still generate almost like so much fear in creatures as large as us, in a way is quite impressive, isn't it? Because so many people are scared of spiders.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You scared of spiders, Charlotte? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, see?
There we go. You know? I mean, let's face it, the amount of people that literally, if they like see a spider, they're like,
I don't like big ones. Big ones freak me out.
but they say it's the small ones you want to worry about.
True.
Because big spiders never have a bad bite.
Oh.
It might hurt a bit,
Yeah.
but it's the small ones that are always the ones that would like have the poison and
The
stuff.
big one
there's-
might like crawl down my throat or something.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, you eat quite a few spiders in your lifetime.
Is
just
that
don't you?
actually real?
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure, but it's like an old.
Don't you?
Yeah.
One thing that freaks me most about spiders is like, when they like spider nests, like when the babies they're all like the circles and they break and there's just millions of them just all like
yellow
flying
ones,
out.
like-
Yeah,
I hate that.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
And you
isn't it?
know that you're never getting rid of them then. They're
And
around
like
hundreds
forever.
of them.
And I think everyone has a tale of like at some point when you're like chilling out on your bed or something, like watching telly in your room, and then you have your window open because it's hot, and then suddenly you'll like see something crawling your way, and you realise there's like a spider like crawling up your bed or like
on your pillow or something.
Oh,
One of
mate,
the
I had
worst
that
one was
real
for me.
bad.
Man.
Yeah, what, on your pillow?
Yeah,
I've
and,
had that
and
as
it was like
well.
one of those massive ones. I think they're called what's the name of them? I can't remember off the top of my head now. But they're the massive ones in Britain that like sketch everybody out every autumn. And they come out. The reason why they suddenly come out around autumn time is because they're looking for mates. So they literally have to physically, obviously, have to find a
He
mate.
was in bed with you.
He was looking for me,
Looking
wanted
for
to
a
mate
mate.
with me. And imagine I turned into I had a child that was some weird spider monster.
It's a spider child.
Yeah. But
Spider Man.
like how you said that, like really Spider Man, you could say. Dubious claim. A dubious claim.
A very dubious claim.
A dubious claim. But what were we saying about him?
The
They're
one
cool.
with your pillow.
Yeah, I remember I was just watching telly. I was in secondary school, so like probably like in like year 10 and year 11. Actually, it might have been a bit younger. And then I just remember just thought I saw something in the corner of my eye, and you almost like go to look, but you like almost like think it's going to be nothing. And I looked, and there was just like one of those massive spiders, and it was like there, and I was like, oh my god.
I remember I was watching something on Hector the Projector.
Oh yeah.
And like the sofa is just like, kind of sitting against the sofa, and like I felt something, like I had a t-shirt on, and I felt something on my arm, and I just kind of went like that, like didn't even like really notice it, and then like a couple minutes later
We felt it again.
I just felt it crawling across my neck. and then literally when it got here and it got onto my shoulder, I realised it was one of those massive spiders, and I literally like jumped out of the chair and like flew behind me, like flew off the back of the sofa. And was and it's it was horrible.
You felt like you were like jumping in fire.
It's crazy how like how
you
you can go from completely just chilling to like on the back on your arse on the back of the sofa.
You go from chilling to on your arse in record time.
Jumped.
Yeah, man. That is sketchy.
That's hilarious. I thought that story was going down the story of not Drew's one, the one about Robert the Brave.
Robert the Bruce.
Robert the Bruce.
Robert the Brave and William Warhart. This is Borgle's fictional movie about Scotland. Robert the Brave and
cooler names,
William Warhart. You've made them sound very, like battle ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I thought that was going on the story of like the Prophet Muhammad for a second then. Like, isn't that the story of the Prophet Muhammad? That he like goes in a cave. And then I am right. I know I'm right. Yeah, and he goes in a cave. He goes in a cave, and then like this spider like forms this big wave because he's being hunted. And then the spider like forms this huge web over the cave, so that they go, oh, there's a web here. No one could be in this cave, but it's only because the spider helped him out, and that saved him.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Didn't know that story. That's cool.
I didn't know that either. Yeah. I did not know that story, young Bullwinkle.
Sorry I got so loud. That excited me then when I realised I was correct.
Sorry, man. If you're excited, that's good. It's good to be excited, you know? It's good to be excited. Did you know that some species of birds allow themselves to get bitten by poisonous spiders and snakes because it kills all of the parasites on their body?
Nice.
So,
symbiotic.
So even though they're like really messed up for a while, they know that when they're better, they won't have any parasites.
Parasites are nasty, man.
Yeah, I to be fair, I think in the long run, even though it'd be savage to get like bitten horribly by like a poisonous snake or a spider, I think I'd rather that than have loads of parasites.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the idea of having loads of like parasites on your body.
Yeah, Rupert got parasites. He had real bad diarrhea for ages, and we were like, "What was it?" And we found out it was like parasites in his poop that were from drinking water like in a river, like they live in the rivers and stuff, and
that's one of the reasons why you obviously have to like either boil your water if you get it from like a little stream or like filter it loads, because you might look clean to you, but there's some weird little creatures living in it and you get really sick.
tiny creatures,
get like really bad tummy and that. Man, you guys need to start giving Rupert some more medicines.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much Holland and Barrett will do for you. You know, poor little bugger. Where was it? That's a really good fact I was going to tell you guys.
The fact.
Oh yeah, Spitfire planes were sometimes crowd-funded during World War II to help with costs, because obviously the economy was really bad. So large-scale contributors were allowed to give the plane a nickname, which was then printed on the side. For example, there was a Spitfire that was made during the Second World War called Dorothy, purely because a load of women called Dorothy banded together and funded it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's quite good, isn't it?
Did it survive?
I'm not sure. I'd like to think it did.
Yeah.
I hope it did. Should we have some more horrible execution facts, just because they're really good?
I do love some execution facts.
Yeah, I'm prone to a couple of execution facts. They're always just quite fun, aren't they? Italian serial killer Leonardo
Da Vinci?
Cianciuella chopped up her victims with an axe and turned them into soap and tea cakes, which she would then give away as presents to people. I like how we're still just listening to this luscious Scottish music, but talking about this. Consort Qi was a Chinese concubine that bore the emperor a son, whom he favoured over his empress's son. The empress responded by torturing Qi. She chopped off her limbs, gouged her eyes out, cut off all of her facial figures, and then locked her in a pigsty until she eventually slowly died, and would taunt her while she was in there, calling her the human swine until the moment of her death.
Like that.
Man, that's a bad way to go.
It's not nice.
I mean, I understand feeling vengeful, but I mean, that's a bit much, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think by the time I chopped off the first ear, I'd be like, that's enough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have just kept on chopping stuff off, you know, and then been like, the human swine. Well, they were just like locked in a little pigsty.
Yeah.
Literally like blind and that.
Oh no, man, no.
That's horrible, man.
That's brutal, isn't it? Do you know much about Uday Hussein, the son of Saddam Hussein?
Ah, no.
The son of Saddam Hussein was apparently absolutely mental.
Really?
Yeah, he was absolutely mental. He was named chairman of the Iraqi Olympic Committee in 1984, Athletes who disappointed him were subject to torture and imprisonment in Iraq.
No.
His own dad, Saddam Hussein, jailed him for 6 months after he murdered Saddam's favourite chef whilst in a psychotic rage. Egyptian dictator Hosni Mubarak, who witnessed some of Udayy's antics, described him as a complete psychopath. He was also known to bring kidnapped girls home, where he would then rape them and have them torn to shreds in front of him by feral, violent dogs that he would keep for him and his friends' entertainment.
Oh my god.
Man, what's up with some people?
Some people
That's
are just
ridiculous.
mental, aren't they? Some people are mental.
Enemy of the pod.
You are.
You're an
Uday Hussein, you are an enemy of the pod. Yeah, we've never had an enemy of the pod before. This is something we should bring in.
First
That
enemy
shows
of the
how
pod.
bad you are.
Yeah, we have
First
friends. Yeah,
enemy.
that are the first enemy of the pod.
Our
Uday.
friends will combine
Yeah.
against you.
We've got some pretty good friends of the pod as well, man. If you brought together all of our friends of the pod, that'd be an epic. I'm thinking of it like
Epic team.
it'd be like
Epic
the
committee.
Avengers, man.
Yeah.
Like the Avengers.
Yeah. That almost reminds me, that story, not the end part of it, but the start part of it reminds me of that story of the Colombian footballer. You ever hear about this? There was like a Colombian footballer who obviously, I think it was Colombia, obviously they're quite good at football, went to the World Cup and they were supposed to, I think they were actually like favourites to win
Oh,
in
really?
this World Cup.
Nice.
And this footballer, he was the captain of the team, defender, and he scored an own goal in the game that, like, accidentally, of course, not his fault by any means, but scored an own goal, made a mistake, and when he got back, he was killed for his
Just for
Discrepancy.
scoring an
Yeah.
own goal.
yeah, because obviously all the like Colombia is the one with like all the
It's
drug
quite
dealers
corrupt,
and stuff,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And they all had like money on Colombia to win the World Cup,
Yeah.
so they all lost the money and then just like killed him for messing with their money.
Crazy.
Brutal, man.
Yeah.
Took it a bit personal.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a bit of a horrible one. The Mongols. We've talked about the Mongols quite a lot on Pandora's box in the past.
box.
The Mongols were highly superstitious and believed that spilling royal blood would lead to great disaster. As a result, they had to find ridiculously creative ways of executing any royals that they captured. This would include sewing up all of their orifices until they eventually died. That's brutal, isn't it? Drowning them in molten metal, or having horses trample on them until they eventually died.
Man, what's with all the like weird ways of killing people?
Mate, I think like history was so brutal. I don't think we like almost like realise how good we've got it nowadays.
Yeah. No.
Oh, like we read out some of these things, just the fact that like this could just like happen to you back in the day. Oh
no, I don't like that face.
I remember my granddad bought me a book, and it was like on history's worst torture methods. He bought it for me for Christmas.
What a lovely
when
book to buy your
Yeah.
grandson.
That's such like a John Donald thing to do.
This was on your your
yeah.
actual birthday as well.
Yeah, no, it was imagine that as a newborn baby, and he's like, "Yeah, you go, lad." But yeah, I remember when I would always used to read it. This torture method was in the book, and I always used to think this one was extra savage. Have you guys heard about the brazen bull?
Yes, the brazen bull was savage, man.
Yeah. So the brazen bull was invented by Perillelios, the tyrant of Akragas in what is modern day Sicily, so like Italy. It was a means of executing criminals by cooking them alive in a bronze bull. So they had like a big, like a life-sized bull statue made out of bronze, but it was hollow, and it had like a
Spit like a
an opening on the side, like a little door. So they'd open it up, they'd put the criminals inside, and then they'd lock it, and then they would light a fire under the brazen bull. So you'd essentially get like cooked alive, like.
And obviously it's like metal as well, so it would have been like.
But it would take ages to die,
Yeah.
because obviously it would take a while for it to get so hot that it was like savage. And also, let's face it, you only die quickly really if one of your major internal organs are like taken out very quickly.
Yeah.
That's why like obviously like a gunshot to the heart or the brain or the lungs would like kill you very
Best
quickly.
way to die, in my opinion.
Or like a gunshot to like the head. Yeah.
Or to like the heart or something. Yeah.
But think, if you were like putting like the bronze bull, like you would take so long to die.
And what's even savager is
Roasting.
the fact they used it for like so many people, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like it was a really common one. Whereas
Yeah,
I assume for like
savage,
some
dude.
of the ones we talked about would have
Swafting
been used
through the air, it's
only
like-
sometimes.
Oh, they're cooking someone again.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
brutal. Turkish Sultan Mehmed once disemboweled his gardeners one by one to find out who stole and ate his favourite cucumber.
Oh my god!
How can you have a favourite cucumber?
I don't know. I guess he like planted it and like, or like got somebody to plant it and like nurture it, and it was looking really good. And then one day went out and he was like, "Where's my cucumber?" So he disemboweled every single one of his gardeners to find.
Oh my god!
Until they said who it was. Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? That is crazy. Oh.
Disemboweled for a cucumber.
Oh man. In 1323, founders of the Aztec Empire asked the king of Culhuacan for his daughter, to which the king of Culhuacan agreed. The Mexica then sacrificed her and flayed her skin and invited the king of Culhuacan to a feast, during which a Mexican priest came out wearing her flayed skin dancing. They need to get more hobbies back in the day, didn't they, you know? Get some more normal hobbies, you know? Take up knitting or something, you know? You don't have to be flaying people.
Play some games, play some cards, don't do that.
Yeah. Governor John Ratcliffe, whose name was used for the villain in Disney's Pocahontas movie, was flayed and burned alive by Native Americans after they lured him to their village by promising to trade with him.
If he was as bad as the Pocahontas movie, then he deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think me and Jake touched on this a little bit when Jake came on.
All right.
But Vlad the Impaler once repelled an attempted invasion by the Ottoman army by making an entire forest of wooden stakes piled high with nothing but Ottoman corpses. According to Calcondalis, a contemporary Greek historian, there were over 20,000 dead Ottomans in what Vlad named affectionately the Forest of the Dead. And they didn't even put in stakes in the ground. They just sharpened trees and then impaled all of the Ottomans from their ass out until out of their mouth.
Oh my god!
So the Ottomans were like going to modern day Hungary.
That must have been the most terrifying thing in history to like walk through.
And then the Ottoman army just came across the Forest of the Dead, and it was just for as far as the eye could see.
Did they literally just turn back after that?
They just went home.
Yeah, they were like, we are not messing with this.
It was like an ongoing massive battle, between like Vlad and the Ottomans, like all throughout his life, and he just found like brutal ways to repel them. Yeah, because the Ottoman Empire was like super powerful around that time, but he was like just so feared Vlad that like even like the Ottomans were like, man, he is too crazy.
So that's why he was called the Impaler.
Yeah, because he used to impale us. Yeah, that's literally why he had the name, because he used to just do stuff like that. I remember I heard like some crazy stuff about Vlad before, about how he like once just like invited, he once like went to like a land where he like had a castle, but that he heard that their people were like wanted like to have an uprising there and like switch to the Ottoman side, so he went to his castle. And then he invited everybody from that like the village there into his castle for like what they thought was just like a massive banquet. And then once they were inside, he just boarded up all the windows and everything left, and then just set the whole castle alight and just killed them all inside.
Jesus,
that's brutal, isn't it? Yeah, he was definitely not the sort of person you would have wanted to have messed with.
No.
Yeah. King Ferdinand I, Holy Roman Emperor, ordered the execution of a man called Anabaptists, who referred to, by drowning, that was referred to as the third baptism. So he just made this thing called the third baptism, where basically you would just drown anybody you didn't want, but like do it as a way of making it all like see like normal in the eyes of God and everything. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
The third baptism. Death.
Now we are going to learn all about the Celts. To modern ears, the word Celtic evokes traditional art, literature and music from mainly Ireland and Scotland. But the ancient Celts were a widespread group of people with origins all across Europe. The Celts were actually the largest ancient group in Europe. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
The largest. The ancient culture known as the Celts once extended far beyond the British Isles, with territory stretching from Spain to the Black Sea. The Celts were geographically the largest group of people to inhabit ancient Europe. The difficulty of tracing Celtic history is that none of these ancient peoples living in Western or Central Europe would have called themselves Celts. That name came from the Greeks, who made their first contact with what they described as barbarian people, who they called the Keltoi, in 540 BC on the southern coast of modern-day France. The ancient Celts were never a single kingdom or an empire, but a collection of hundreds of tribes with a shared culture and distinctive language. The Celts were described as barbaric warriors. Since the Celts themselves left no written histories, were left to rely on the admittedly biased accounts of their enemies in battle, the Greeks and later the Romans. Historians don't know why the Greeks called them Keltoi, but the names stuck, and the Celts developed a reputation in Greece as hard drinking, hard fighting, savages. They would often go into battle naked and were prized as great mercenaries across the Mediterranean. The Romans called the Celts Galli or Gallia, and frequently clashed with Celtic tribes that invaded Roman outposts in northern Italy. In 387 BC, a fearless Celtic warlord named Brennus sealed the barbaric reputation of the Celts by violently sacking and pillaging Rome and putting most of the Roman Senate to the sword.
The Senate.
Centuries later, after the Roman Empire had conquered several Celtic tribes in the Iberian Peninsula, which, by the way, is just now... The Iberian Peninsula is like in modern day just like Spain and Portugal. The Romans called them Gallicae. Julius Caesar embarked on a 9-year Gallic war to defeat the Celts and various other tribal kingdoms in what was then known as Gaul, but is nowadays modern France. Caesar wrote about the conquest of Gaul with a mix of disgust and respect for his Celtic enemies. In the end, Caesar makes a clear distinction between the civilized Mediterranean world of Rome and the great, unwashed Celts in Gaul, so that Romans are justified in colonizing them, says Bettina Arnold, an anthropology professor at the University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee. Ancient Celtic burial grounds reveal complex societies. The Celts were far from savages, as evidenced by the intricate metalwork and jewellery excavated from ancient Celtic hill forts and burial mounds all across Europe. One such mound near Hochdorf, Germany, held the remains of a Celtic chieftain and a wealth of artefacts pointing to a complex and stratified Celtic society. The Hochdorf chieftain's mound dates from about 530 BC, what archaeologists call the late Hallstatt period, when Celtic culture was concentrated in Central Europe. The chieftain was laid out on a long bronze couch with wheels and dressed in gold finery, including a traditional Celtic neckband, which they called torques. Can you think of them? Like those cool torques? He was surrounded by ornate drinking horns and a large bronze cauldron, which still held the remains of high proof and honey mead. That's what you want to drink. Love in the mead. Arnold says that the wheeled coach was replaced in later Celtic burial mounds by two-wheeled chariots that carried the honoured dead into the afterlife. The drinking equipment points to the critical role of feasting as a socio-political tool to the Celtic people. What the Greeks and Romans described as excessive drinking was actually a way for Celtic elites to strengthen ties with allies, and that continued into the great beyond. The Celts believed in a strong, powerful afterlife. You had to bring alcohol with you and throw a big party when you got to the other side. A sign of a good leader was generosity first. I like that. You know.
So would they have been at the same time as Vikings, but just in different places, or like? Because it sounds quite Viking-y, doesn't it?
Yeah, they would have been like really similar people. Do you know what I mean? Like with all like the drinking and the mead and like the believing in like a big sort of party afterlife and stuff like that. But they were like really, really similar, like in terms of DNA and everything, but like obviously slightly different because the Celtic people, as I said, would have been in like what was like modern day Britain and like Germany and France, Spain, places like that. It does get like a little bit confusing though, because you think of like the Germanic peoples, and that is considered different to like the Celtic peoples, but that's because that was like a little bit later. The Celts were famous for their colourful wool textiles, and they were the forerunners of the famous Scottish tartan. And while only a few tantalising scraps of these textiles survive today, that we do believe that Celts were the first to wear tartan, but they would have worn them as like tartan trousers. Oh, okay. So it's cool to imagine like a bunch of Celts just running around in like tartan trousers, isn't it? They didn't have buttons though, so they would have fastened their clothing.
Not the kilts then.
No. Just I think the kilts were actually invented by the English, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah, it's like one of those like weird facts where like everyone associates them with the Scottish, but it was actually the English. Yeah.
Whoa.
I know, it's weird,
I
isn't
don't
it?
like that for some reason.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. We should look it up. Everything in Celtic society was passed down by their druids, who were by far the most important people in their societies. The ancient Celts weren't illiterate, but what is known as alliterate, which means that they chose deliberately not to write down their information, not that they didn't have the ability to. And they did this in order to safeguard what they considered their sacred stories, their laws, and safeguard any important information. The Celtic religion, for example, required animal and human sacrifices to a pantheon of gods, but that esoteric knowledge was restricted only to Celtic priests called druids, and passed on orally from generation to generation. Druids were figures of great respect and honour in Celtic society, and were among the few who could safely travel among warring tribes, even in times of battle. Apparently, the druids were thought so highly of and were so powerful that they could literally walk right into the middle of a battle as it happened and just go stop, and everyone would just stop.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And that's how much power and respect they had.
Oh, there's something so mysterious. Hearing about all this now, I'm just like, I wish I could know more about them or like see what that time was like.
So cool, isn't it? So cool. John Cock, a historical linguist specialising in early Celtic languages at the University of Wales, says that they could basically do absolutely anything in their society. Like druids were like, they were almost like they were like a cross. Yeah, they were like gods, kings, wizards, like and everything, all of the above and more. Other learned classes of Celts included genealogists who memorised centuries of tribal relations. Those responsible for these people had to memorise everything in Celtic society. They were like chosen from birth.
All right.
And then they would be like told orally everything about their traditions.
That's
and
like what I was saying
like
earlier.
historians then.
It must have been super important. That's why it was like as such a big role to do something like that, because if you didn't write anything down, the way that information was passed down must have been so like specific and like
must have been like a lot of pressure.
Because like Chinese whispers.
Yeah, definitely. So that they had what they called genealogists, like what you nowadays would call a genealogist, who were responsible for memorising all this. But they also, what they saw as equally important, were their bards, who would teach who basically all of the oral tradition would be told to the bards, and then the bards would recite it all through songs, which is so cool, isn't it? The bards were considered both the storytellers and the folk historians of their societies. I love that. I absolutely love that. Even though the Celtic tribes never unified politically under one kingdom, their oral traditions helped to create and maintain a cultural unity across great geographical distances. That explains why Celts were most easily identified by their shared language. Celtic languages are still spoken, but only in parts of the UK and France. Nowadays this includes Welsh, Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Manx Gaelic, Cornish, and what's known as Breton in Brittany in France. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So they were like, obviously the reason why England is called England is because it was invaded by like the Germanic peoples, like the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes. So a lot of people like live in England don't have that much Celtic blood, but super related anyway. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like apples and oranges, because I know that like if you really want to go like really balls deep in your history, like in terms of like the blood, like those ancient historians say that they're like, we were like virtually identical anyway. That's why it's like, like Scandinavian people, Germanics peoples and Celtic people, they're all so similar. But yeah, some nice little Celtic facts for us there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's be honest,
that's piqued my interest, man. I want to do some more research into that.
Yeah, to be honest, there were like loads more Celtic facts that I got ready, but we've come to the end of the show. So we'll have to have some more at another time.
Sure.
But yeah, we have come to the end of this week's Pandora's Box. I like the fact that just for like the last half an hour, we've just had this music playing. But it was just so nice. I just wanted it in the background. And it was especially relevant for both the Scottish tale and for this Celtic tale. So thanks for everyone for tuning in to Pandora's Box. If you don't watch us on YouTube or don't know us on Spotify, please go on our Spotifys and our YouTubes and give us a subscribe. Give us a like, ring that little bell button, ding, 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 and share. And yeah, join us again next week on Pandora's Box. Have a nice week, everyone.